How's it going, guys? Today I'm bringing you a special thing that normally I don't really do, but I've been wanting to do something like this for a very long time. Not necessarily with this game, but like with other games in the past. Basically, what I'm bringing you today is Chronicon, the Berserker build Dragon Leap. Now, this build is pretty cool. It's something that I came up with myself, sort of. I mean, the overall build is I feel like pretty straightforward, but I haven't really been seeing a whole lot of content, A, on the Berserker, and B, kind of on Chronicon. So I've been wanting to kind of maybe help the community out a little bit and see if I can't help people play this amazing class called the Berserker. Now, the Berserker, like most ARPGs, he's the guy that goes in there, does not give two shits, and just punches everything in the face. But he has a special ability called Dragon's Leap, with variations of, I think it's like Arctic Leap and Leap itself. This build basically revolves around using Dragon's Leap, using fire damage, and exploiting, not necessarily exploiting, but fully utilizing a few of the passives. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. So starting off with the items, the biggest and probably the main item of this build are going to be Brutal Stompers. Brutal Stompers removes the cooldown and mana cost from Leap, Dragon's Leap, and Arctic Leap. Basically making it so this is A, your movement for the game, B, your damage for the most part, and survivability. I mean, you are able to clear maps so fast with this, and also just get out of crap that's gonna kill you pretty quick. I mean, I don't know. It's not hard to explain. I mean, it's pretty straightforward once you're looking at it. Otherwise, what I'm using along with it is I am using the Dragonfire Garb set, the full 4-piece. Reason why is the 2-piece explosive maneuvers, which we use a lot in this build as our main damage, triggers on hit, and destructive maneuvers deal 200% increased damage. And then its 3rd piece, explosive maneuvers and destructive maneuvers, adds Rampage to the Berserker when triggered. Rampage stacks up to 20 times and increases the damage of explosive maneuvers by 10% per stack for 5 seconds. And the crucial thing, especially when you're trying to push mythic difficulty, is its 4-piece, which is Rampage, adds 40% damage reduction while active. Since we are proccing explosive maneuvers pretty much every time we leap, you're going to need that 40% damage reduction, and it's going to save you a lot. On top of that, the other two items that I find actually work really well with this build is first this ring. Now, yes, I know it's a low level. I have not found another ring at all. Like, I found this ring, it is the only one I've ever found, but I do like its effect on it, which is burns foes hit for 94% fire damage instantly and per second for 3 seconds. It's just good, because the way this build works is you're leaping onto a pack and moving to the next pack and letting your dots basically kill them, and you just clear the map like that and come back looting up. So it's a great item to have on there. You can add in some other items as well onto this build. These right here I wouldn't necessarily say is the core items that you need to have. The biggest one you really need is just the Stompers. But for my amulet, I'm running Frostburn Heirloom, basically just for more protection. Rage Release no longer deals damage and instead provides a protective barrier, shielding the Berserker for 1% of his maximum health for every 3 rage consumed by the skill. Barrier lasts 10 seconds or until broken. This one's pretty good just because you do get a pretty good thick shield on you and can negate some of those one-shotty things in Mythics. And the other one I'm using is just this amulet that I found, or not amulet, but accessory I should say. It's nothing too special. I've been kind of messing around with it. It adds 4%, has a 4% chance on kill to grant a random buff, lasts for 15 seconds. I'll be honest, I haven't really done much in looking into what buffs you can get with this item, but the base stats were nice, and I haven't really found another item equivalent to it. Otherwise, getting into optional items that you can run, this build lends its way to a large variety of them. One of these items being Smoldering Gemstone. Foes killed burn the ground, dealing 139% fire damage per second for 3 seconds in a small radius. I was running this one. This one's pretty good too, since you are killing things in stacks. You're getting large groups together, and they're pretty much all dying. So if one or two are, some of the little stronger ones in there, that burn is going to help burn them down a little quicker. Otherwise, you can supplement the accessory for a host of other ones. I mean, like I said, go wild with this build, more the merrier. I do think this build does a pretty good job at pushing for right now for where I have it at. Otherwise, I do think overall this build is pretty much designed just for speeding through and clearing and farming out stuff left and right. Okay, so getting into the skills, it's really, you can't go wrong here. You can spec all the way into the fire tree, you can spec into a little bit of the fire tree what you need and go somewhere else. It all kind of depends on what kind of leap damage you want to go with. In my opinion, I think the fire dragon leap variant is the best one out of frost and the physical one. I could be wrong. I don't know all the items in the game quite yet, and I haven't really got a hold of them and messed around with them. But we all know fire in most games are pretty strong. But if you're speccing into this from low level, I would recommend definitely going all the way into Dragon's Leap and Fissures. You don't need to waste points into Rumble because it's already has no cooldown. Then Dragon Within, and then going with Enkindled, which is pretty good. Just makes it so Dragon Within also adds 45% fire damage onto the other massive amounts of fire damage we're getting on this build. And then also just kind of speccing into Warm Blood, Boiling. Molten Veins is pretty good, decked with Lava Blood, just adds more fire damage to everything. And of course, Dragmageddon, along with Dragon Burn, is good. Drake form for the survivability. You could use, Dragon Rage. However, I don't really have an issue with Rage on this build. And we don't necessarily care about cooldown reduction for our other abilities, just because a lot of it's just self-buffing anyways. So that's why we stick with Drake form. Otherwise, I do have an Ember Shield on here, which you could use. I've been thinking about it in place of Dragon's Breath, and of course, Incarnation, which would help deal with blocking out some of the projectiles coming towards us. Otherwise, I just spec into a little early health there, and into Thorns damage, because the Thorns damage is pretty overall good. And getting down to explosive maneuvers, of course, always explosive maneuvers maxed out, same with destructive maneuvers, and cooling off, just because it's extra damage. It's not a whole lot of damage, but it's extra damage nonetheless. Then I dip into the frost spec a little bit here too, grabbing damage reduction, which is pretty good. A little bit of cooldown, a little bit of rage release, not a whole lot, just to proc again our 4-piece, or that necklace, sorry. And then I go in with crippling cold, just kind of slowing them down, frostbite, into the frost winds, just to spec that up a little bit more to help out our cooling off. And then of course I go into Warcry, Renaissance, and Inspire. And then for my last couple points I honestly didn't know where to put them, so I just put them into flat movement speed and increase the damage of shout type skills, which honestly I don't use any shouts, so I don't know why I kind of wasted those points. But you kind of get where I'm coming from here. Is really the bread and butter's here. This is where you want to focus the majority of your points. Otherwise, the rest of them are just kind of throw them to the wind and see what sticks. Luckily in this game, you can always just reset your skill points. So if you messed up, just reset them and try again. Now, getting into masteries, I am currently mastery 157, so I do have a lot of points to play with here. But realistically, the biggest area that you want to spend all your points into is, of course, the Dragonkin mastery. Reason why? Fire damage. Plus 40% fire damage right off the hop, and into Cataclysm, which has a 30% chance to trigger explosive maneuvers, which basically means we have 100% uptime on that. Too Hot to Handle increases fire damage by an additional 15%. Draconic Healing, I'm going to be leveling that up a little bit just because it helps with the healing and survivability a little bit. You can go with Dragon Scales for damage stagger, but typically I've been finding I just kind of get one-shotted anyway, so it's really not too big of a deal for me. Good one here is Man on Fire. The effect of Enkindled is tripled, which is crazy. Effectively making it, what's 45 times 3? You do the math. That's more percentile fire damage that honestly, I don't know if this build really needs, but we're gonna take it regardless. Also, total annihilation increases the damage of our explosive maneuvers, which is amazing. Coupled that with our gear sets, basically doing 300% increased damage. And then double destination once, dealing damage twice. That's always a good. Dragon can focus. Really, that's just there to put it there. I mean, I don't know. There's really not a good one. I'd probably do actually switch that out to, wild synergy. Otherwise, this is pretty good too for Dragon-Mageddon as well. So it's really not too bad. And then finally, Fire Affinity. Just increases fire damage with each point spent at the same rate as the other stats. So, more damage. You really can't go wrong with speccing everything into here. Otherwise, other ones, I'm going with just for our base class mastery. I kind of dipped down in here for 3 for some reason. It doesn't really matter which one you pick first. They're all the same. Went damage into pickup strength, and into Golden Touch, which is very underrated in my opinion. Chests never spring traps, never require keys, and contain 10% more crafting materials and currencies. Like, why wouldn't you pick that? A, no more keys sitting in your bags. B, more shit to get. It's a no-brainer for me. And then lasting effects. The lasting effects is pretty good. Building effect duration on this build is nice, just because since we're hopping from pack to pack to pack, keeping those fires on enemies as long as possible is going to do a great job of killing them and doing this job. Otherwise, health leech, 30% increased health on hit, which is nice, especially coupled with Draconic healing, which I need to put more points into. And then fortress, damage reduction, and then resist all. This is key for especially putting mythics, in my opinion, because you want to get your all resist up as much as possible. And then finally going into elemental power. And you can kind of see my second one that I'm going here. I'm going with just more upper base health. A pickup radius, I could care less about. Anchored, become immune to knockback and pull effects. Honestly, I haven't seen these affect me at all, even before using this. So I don't know if it's really worth having, but depending on if you're getting into the packs where they're not dying as quickly, it's going to help in the long run. And then mobility for movement speed, healing from all sources. Bling is what I'm going to be going into, and the biggest one here is again fire damage. 3% fire damage at max rig, 75% fire damage. Just extra damage on top of that. If I wanted to respec, I could respec this a little bit, probably hit that up right away. But, I'm just kind of playing along with it right now because I'm doing just fine. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for the mastery. The core of this build is pretty simple. You right-click. You can right-click a little, you can right-click a lot. Right-click to your abilities. Otherwise, it's pretty much just right-clicking and just spamming all your buffs to keep them constantly up. That's going to deal more damage, have more survivability, and that's pretty much the name of the game. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this build video. Let me know what you liked about it, what I could maybe do differently, and also on top of that, let me know what build you're running in Chronicon. What class are you playing? Are you playing the Berserker? Are you playing the Warlock? What are you doing, and what build are you running? I would love to know. I hope to play this game. I don't hope. I know I'm going to be playing this game a lot more and going into different builds, maybe different variations of the Elite build, but for sure trying out different builds on the Berserker and eventually maybe getting to some other classes. So with that all being said, I hope you have a good day and I'll catch you later. See ya.